Aaron had always known that humans were considered ordinary in the galaxy. Compared to the towering armored Krelvians or the telepathic Saurians, humans were small, fragile, and often underestimated. Yet here he was walking into the grandest hall in the galaxy, the council chambers of Queen Lysara herself, and feeling a strange mixture of awe and fear. The chamber stretched endlessly in every direction. Light panels floated in mid-air, casting soft hues across the polished crystal floors. Alien emissaries from hundreds of planets filled the hall, their forms diverse beyond imagination. Some had 6 limbs, others glowed faintly with inner light, and a few were creatures whose shapes Aaron couldn't even begin to describe. He felt completely out of place in his simple human attire, a suit that now seemed absurdly small and fragile. At the far end of the hall sat Queen Lysara, the ruler of the largest empire in known space. She was seated on a throne that seemed to float above the floor, carved from a rare black crystal that shimmered with starlight. Her presence was commanding. Even without speaking, she made every being in the room feel smaller, as if their own power had been gently taken away. Her long silver hair glimmered like a river of moonlight, and her eyes, a rare violet shade, scanned the hall with a sharp intelligence that could pierce through pretense and lies alike. Aaron's heart pounded in his chest. He had been invited here as a diplomat from Earth to discuss trade agreements with the Lysaran Empire. Normally, he dealt with alien ambassadors in conference rooms filled with screens and holograms. This was not normal. This was the seat of the most powerful queen in the galaxy. The meeting began like any other. Queen Lysara addressed the council with her calm, deep voice, explaining the agenda for the day. Emissaries presented their reports, some boasting about their military power, others showing their technological advancements. Aaron listened politely, taking notes, his mind working to absorb names, alliances, and threats. Then, it happened. Queen Lysara's eyes fell on him. Not on the other ambassadors, not on the generals or ministers, but on him. A sudden silence fell over the chamber. Aaron's pulse quickened. Something in her gaze was different, intense, almost personal. "Aaron of Earth," she said, her voice echoing with authority. "From this moment, you are my husband." The words hung in the air. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then a wave of gasps and murmurs swept through the hall. Aliens leaned forward, their multicolored eyes wide. Some whispered to each other in disbelief, others simply stared. The Krelvian generals exchanged confused looks. The Saurian ministers blinked in stunned silence. Aaron felt his face go red, a flush that no alien could see but that he felt in every nerve. "Husband," he managed to say, his voice barely above a whisper. "Me?" Queen Lysara's expression was calm, almost unreadable, but her violet eyes held a spark that made him realize she was serious. "Yes," she replied. "You, Aaron of Earth. From this day our union is official, recognized by me and by the laws of the Lysaran Empire." The chamber erupted. Some diplomats shouted, others argued, and a few simply froze in shock. The court had never seen such a declaration. Marriages in the Lysaran Empire were usually arranged between powerful houses, often to secure alliances, not with an unassuming human from a distant planet. Aaron's mind raced. Was this a joke, a test, or some kind of trick? But the queen's gaze never wavered. She was the most powerful being he had ever met, and if she had decided this, it must be real. I don't understand," Aaron stammered. "Why me?" Queen Lysara leaned forward slightly, her voice soft but firm. "Because, Aaron, I see something in you that is rare in this galaxy. Something that many of my own species and all others here lack." She paused, letting her words sink in. "Humans are underestimated. They are often overlooked, dismissed as fragile or unimportant. But you have courage, clarity, and a perspective that can solve problems others cannot. I have observed you carefully. I trust you and I choose you." Aaron blinked. Him, trust? Perspective. He felt a strange warmth in his chest. No one had ever said such things about him, especially not a queen. And yet the weight of the moment pressed on him. This wasn't a compliment. It was a responsibility. The other ambassadors were not so impressed. A tall Krelvian commander stomped a foot. "This is absurd. Why would the queen marry a human? This could destabilize the court." A Saurian minister added, her voice melodic but sharp. "Humans are weak. They are not suited for roles of power. This decision defies tradition and reason." Aaron swallowed hard. He could feel the weight of the court's judgment pressing down on him. If he failed, it wouldn't just be embarrassment. It could have consequences for Earth and every human he represented. Queen Lysara raised a hand, and the room fell silent. I do not choose my allies based on size, strength, or heritage. I choose those who can act with courage, with clarity, and with honor. Aaron has proven these qualities, and that is why he stands beside me today. Even as she spoke, Aaron could feel a shift. The murmurs of disbelief did not disappear, but a few of the more thoughtful emissaries were watching him differently. Perhaps for the first time, some were beginning to see humans in a new light. The Queen's advisors approached Aaron, some with curiosity, others with skepticism. They explained what this declaration meant. He would be the Queen's closest confidant, her advisor in critical matters, and a representative of humanity in the Empire's affairs. It was more than a title. It was a role with influence, responsibilities, and danger. Aaron's mind was spinning. He had studied diplomacy, yes, but nothing prepared him for this. Nothing had prepared any human for this. And yet deep inside he felt something awaken. A spark of pride, determination, and purpose. For the first time he realized that being human might not be a weakness in this galaxy. The rest of the day was a whirlwind. Photographers or their alien equivalents took formal images. Officials debated quietly about protocol. Aaron learned that he would live in the royal palace, study the Empire's laws, and accompany Queen Lysara on missions. Each task seemed impossible, but each also carried a chance to prove that humans were more than ordinary. By evening, the hall emptied, leaving Aaron and Queen Lysara alone in the private chambers of the palace. The room was enormous, walls of transparent crystal showing stars and planets in the distance. Aaron looked out at the galaxy and felt both small and strangely powerful. Do you understand what this means? The Queen asked. Her voice was softer now, almost gentle. I think so, Aaron said slowly. I'm honored, but I'm also nervous. I don't want to disappoint you or anyone else. Queen Lysara smiled faintly. You will not. Humans often surprise us all. Your kind has a way of finding solutions where others see none. Remember that, Aaron. You are not just my husband. You are my equal in counsel. Your mind, your heart, and your courage will matter more than any strength or weapon. Aaron felt a sense of determination he had never known. He may have been a human in a galaxy of powerful aliens, but perhaps, just perhaps, that was exactly what made him extraordinary. As he looked out at the stars, he realized that this was only the beginning. The court had been shocked, the galaxy intrigued, and the Queen. Perhaps she had seen in him something he had never even seen in himself. And so, the unassuming human diplomat stepped into a world of power, intrigue, and danger, carrying with him the hope that humans could stand tall among the stars. The journey ahead would test his courage, his mind, and his heart. But for the first time, he understood that being human might be the galaxy's greatest advantage of all. Aaron's first days in the palace were a mixture of wonder, confusion, and exhaustion. Every corner of Queen Lysara's homeworld was more advanced and magnificent than anything he had imagined. Halls of crystal gleamed with light that seemed alive. Floating platforms moved silently, carrying servants and couriers. Machines hummed in harmony, monitoring everything from air quality to the Queen's personal security. He had expected challenges, but he had not expected to feel so small in a galaxy where every being seemed extraordinary. The alien court was full of beings who were strong, fast, and intelligent in ways humans could not fully grasp. Krelvian warriors could lift hundreds of tons with ease. Saurians could communicate without words, sharing thoughts directly through complex telepathy. Even the advisors, beings of logic and experience, could calculate probabilities and outcomes faster than any human could. Yet, Aaron noticed something others seemed to miss. While aliens were extraordinary, they often relied too much on what they knew, on patterns and expectations. Humans, he realized, could act differently. They could imagine solutions that others would dismiss as impossible, see connections that others overlooked, and adapt quickly when plans failed. His first test came sooner than he expected. During a council meeting, representatives from the planet Zerath argued that a trade agreement with Earth would be disadvantageous. Humans are unpredictable, the Zerath envoy said. Their economy is unstable. Their fleets are weak. They cannot be trusted with valuable technology. Aaron felt the weight of every eye in the room on him. This was not just a negotiation. It was a judgment of humanity. He took a deep breath and spoke. You are correct, he began. Humans are unpredictable. But sometimes unpredictability is a strength. We adapt, we innovate, we find solutions that others cannot see. The aliens leaned forward, skeptical. Aaron smiled faintly and continued. Let me give an example. Last year, Earth faced a crisis when one of our energy stations failed. Traditional plans would have taken months to fix it, but our engineers created a new method in days, using materials and ideas no one thought possible. That is what humans offer. Not just strength, not just numbers, but creativity and adaptability. For a moment, the room was silent. Then, to his surprise, Queen Lysera nodded slightly. The Zirath representative frowned, but could not immediately dismiss the argument. Aaron's words planted a seed of doubt that humans were weak or irrelevant. Later in private, the Queen approached him. You speak with clarity and confidence, she said. I chose correctly. Many in my court would never have dared to make that point so openly. Aaron felt a flush of pride. He had expected doubt or ridicule, but instead the Queen had praised him. Thank you, Your Majesty, he replied. I just want to help, and maybe show that humans have value in this galaxy. Queen Lysera's violet eyes softened. You will do more than show value, Aaron. You will teach them. Humans are underestimated, and sometimes that underestimation is the greatest advantage. The days that followed were filled with lessons, challenges, and small victories. Aaron learned the ways of the court, the complex rules of diplomacy, and the hidden currents of influence that flowed through the palace. He observed that most alien advisors approached problems with rigid logic, following traditions that had existed for thousands of years. Aaron's human mind, unbound by centuries of expectation, allowed him to see possibilities others ignored. One afternoon, a crisis erupted. The palace communication system detected a potential sabotage attempt from a neighboring planet. The usual protocol was to mobilize security forces, seal the palace, and investigate slowly. The advisors argued that rushing could create panic. Aaron stepped forward. Or, he said, we could use the pattern of the attack to predict the next move. We can protect the critical points without alarming everyone. The lead strategist raised an eyebrow. And how would a human untrained in our methods know what to do? Aaron smiled. Because humans look at problems differently. We combine intuition with observation. Let me try. He examined the data, noting the timing of the suspicious signals, the pathways used, and the unusual patterns in the enemy communication. Then he made a suggestion. A plan to reroute defenses and monitor critical areas while keeping most of the palace unaware. The advisors were hesitant but had no better alternative. The Queen gave a subtle nod and the plan was implemented. Within hours, they discovered the saboteur, a skilled infiltrator attempting to disable the palace energy core. Thanks to Aaron's insight, the attack was prevented without alarm or chaos. The court was stunned. A human, small and unassuming, had outmaneuvered their best strategists. Whispers spread through the hallways. Perhaps humans are not as weak as we thought, some murmured. Others remained skeptical, but the seed of respect had been planted. Aaron noticed that his relationship with Queen Lysera changed subtly after the incident. She consulted him more often, seeking his opinion on matters ranging from logistics to political strategy. He realized that while she was immensely powerful, she valued qualities beyond raw strength or speed. She valued ingenuity, courage, and perspective, qualities humans possessed in abundance. One evening, Aaron walked through the palace gardens with the Queen. The garden floated above the city, supported by energy fields with plants and waterfalls that seemed alive. He marveled at the beauty and wondered how a human could ever match the grandeur of the galaxy. You look thoughtful, Queen Lysera said, her voice calm. I am, Aaron admitted. Sometimes I feel small. So many beings are stronger, faster, more powerful. How can a human really matter in this galaxy? She looked at him with those piercing violet eyes. Matter? You already do. You may be physically weaker than most species, Aaron, but humans have qualities that no one else possesses. Courage, creativity, empathy. You think outside the box. You adapt. You inspire loyalty. These are not weaknesses, they are your strength. Aaron nodded slowly. He had always known humans were underestimated, but hearing it from the galaxy's most powerful ruler felt different. He felt a growing confidence, not arrogance, but a determination to prove that humans could rise to challenges no one thought they could. His next challenge came during a council meeting with representatives from 5 rival planets. They were negotiating trade and territorial boundaries. The discussions were tense and the aliens argued fiercely, each trying to gain advantage. Aaron listened carefully, noting that many arguments were based on assumptions rather than facts. Finally, he spoke. "I believe there is a solution that benefits all parties," he said. The room went silent. "It requires thinking differently, not following tradition. If each of you compromises in small ways, the larger result will be stronger than what anyone expects. I can outline the plan if you will listen." He sketched the proposal on a floating hollow pad, showing step by step how resources could be shared, territories respected, and trade increased. He even included contingencies for disputes. The plan was unorthodox, but it worked. By the end of the meeting, even the skeptical representatives admitted that the human plan was effective. Queen Lysara smiled faintly. "You see, Aaron? Humans may be underestimated, but your kind often succeeds where others fail. Adaptability, creativity, courage, these are powerful tools. And now the court is beginning to notice." Aaron realized that his journey had only just begun. He had survived his first tests, earned small respect, and shown that humans could succeed in ways others could not. Yet he also knew that the galaxy was vast, full of challenges far greater than trade disputes or minor sabotage. As he gazed at the stars from his chambers that night, he felt a quiet determination. He was a human, small and unassuming, in a universe of extraordinary beings. But perhaps that was exactly what made him extraordinary in his own way. The Queen had chosen him not for strength, but for heart and mind. And in this galaxy, that might be the most powerful advantage of all. Life in Queen Lysara's palace had begun to feel both exhilarating and dangerous for Aaron. Being the Queen's husband was more than a title. It meant he was now a visible figure in the center of power. Every action, every word, every glance was noticed and analyzed. Aaron quickly learned that the court was not just a place of diplomacy. It was a battlefield of influence and ambition. Some of the alien ministers and generals had never accepted him. To them, a human had no right to stand beside the Queen, much less advise her on matters of state. Aaron noticed their subtle glances, the whispers when they thought he was out of earshot, and the occasional snide remark meant to undermine him. But he also noticed that the Queen's attention never wavered. She valued his insight, his courage, and his perspective. That alone gave him strength. The first major test came with a meeting of the High Council of Strategy, a secretive group that advised the Queen on military and political matters. The council was composed of beings who had lived for centuries, trained in tactics, politics, and strategy. Their minds were sharp, their experience unmatched. Aaron felt small as he entered the chamber, but he held his head high. The council discussed a border dispute with a neighboring system, Varlia, known for its aggressive tactics and powerful fleet. The advisors debated fiercely, each presenting plans filled with complex calculations, advanced weaponry, and overwhelming force. Aaron listened carefully, noting patterns, inconsistencies, and assumptions. Finally, when the room seemed stuck in endless debate, he spoke. "I believe the approach we are discussing relies too much on intimidation and force," he said. "There is another way," a Krelvian general scoffed. "And what would a human know about military tactics? Your species is weak. Your fleets are insignificant." Aaron did not flinch. "Perhaps. But weakness can be a strength if used wisely. I suggest a strategy based on unpredictability and diplomacy. Instead of meeting aggression with aggression, we create a situation where the Varelians overestimate our reach, while we quietly secure alliances and resources. It will allow us to protect our borders without unnecessary bloodshed." The room erupted in murmurs and laughter. An elder advisor shook his head. "A human proposes a strategy without fleets, without weapons, without centuries of experience? Preposterous." Queen Lysara raised her hand, silencing the room. "Let him explain. We value results, not tradition alone." Aaron outlined his plan in detail. He suggested using decoys, secret communications, and rapid deployment of small but effective forces to create the illusion of overwhelming power. He combined careful observation with creativity, using tactics that no one in the room had expected. By the end of his presentation, the council was silent again, this time with a different expression. Doubt replaced skepticism. Over the next weeks, the plan was tested with simulations and small-scale exercises. Each time it succeeded, the Varelians, when observing these maneuvers, overestimated the Lyceran Empire's capabilities and hesitated to act aggressively. Orion's unconventional approach worked brilliantly, proving that human ingenuity could rival even centuries of experience. But not everyone was happy. Some council members, threatened by his success, began plotting against him. They whispered to the Queen, questioning his loyalty and warning of hidden dangers. Orion overheard fragments of these conversations. Some called him a distraction. Others claimed he was in over his head. Orion realized that surviving in the court required more than clever strategies. It required vigilance, observation, and careful diplomacy. He began to watch the behavior of those around him, noting alliances, rivalries, and hidden ambitions. Humans could read emotion and intention in ways aliens often missed. He used this ability to avoid traps and to strengthen relationships with those willing to listen. One evening, a senior minister approached him quietly in the gardens. "Human," the minister whispered, glancing around. "You have made waves. Some in the council see you as a threat. Be careful. One misstep and they will turn the Queen against you." Orion nodded. "Thank you for warning me. I will be cautious." Caution, however, did not mean inaction. He continued to offer ideas, solve problems, and demonstrate his worth. When a shipment of rare energy crystals was mysteriously delayed, he traced the issue to a miscommunication between alien traders and local authorities. His solution not only ensured the delivery, but also prevented potential conflict between planets. Each success increased his credibility with the Queen, but it also fueled envy among the more traditional council members. The palace was a maze of intrigue. Orion discovered secret tunnels used by advisors to meet privately, hidden chambers for confidential discussions, and encrypted communication channels that allowed factions to plot unseen. Every day was a test of observation and judgment. Humans could adapt quickly, and Orion used this adaptability to navigate the dangers. He learned to smile when confronted with hostility, to respond calmly under pressure, and to think creatively when the expected solution failed. The Queen noticed his growth. One afternoon, she summoned him to her private study. The room was filled with glowing maps, holographic stars, and displays showing fleets and planetary positions. "You have done well," she said. "The Council is uneasy, but you have earned their respect in ways they do not yet fully understand." Orion smiled faintly. "It is not easy. I feel like I am always on the edge of making a mistake." "You are human," Lysera replied gently. "Mistakes are part of growth, but you also have courage, clarity, and adaptability. These qualities are rare even among the oldest species. That is why I chose you. Trust yourself and the rest will follow." As days turned into weeks, Orion faced increasingly complex challenges. He negotiated disputes between planets, solved logistical crises in the Empire's fleet, and even helped prevent an outbreak of political violence. Each situation tested him, but he found that humans had a unique advantage: the ability to combine logic with empathy, reason with intuition. Aliens relied on predictable patterns. Humans could improvise. One of the most dangerous moments came when a faction within the court attempted to sabotage a diplomatic mission. They planned to intercept a convoy carrying essential supplies to a neutral planet. Orion discovered the plot through careful observation of schedules, messages, and behavior. He quickly devised a counterplan, rerouting the convoy and using decoys to mislead the saboteurs. The mission succeeded without incident, earning him further respect from Queen Lysera and even some skeptical council members. Despite these victories, Orion knew danger was never far away. Court politics were unpredictable, and some aliens were willing to take extreme risks to protect their power. He learned to trust only a few allies, to keep his strategies flexible, and to always anticipate deception. Yet, even amid danger, he discovered something extraordinary. Humans could inspire loyalty and admiration through simple acts of courage and honesty. Unlike some alien species who relied on fear or dominance, humans could win hearts through integrity, problem-solving, and adaptability. Slowly, Orion realized that his humanity, something once considered a weakness, was becoming his greatest strength. One quiet night, he stood on the balcony overlooking the palace gardens. The stars stretched endlessly across the sky, distant worlds sparkling like gems. He felt a mixture of fear, awe, and determination. The galaxy was full of beings far stronger and more experienced than him, but he now understood that humans had something they did not: ingenuity, courage, and the ability to act when others hesitated. Queen Lysera joined him silently. You have faced many challenges, Aaron, and yet you continue to rise. Do you understand why I chose you? Aaron looked at her. Because humans can surprise even the most powerful beings. She smiled faintly. Yes, and because I trust you to act with courage, wisdom, and integrity. The galaxy underestimates humanity. That is its greatest mistake. Aaron felt a sense of pride mixed with humility. He had begun as an ordinary human diplomat, overwhelmed by a galaxy of extraordinary beings. Now he stood as the Queen's husband, an advisor, and a representative of humanity. He was small, yes, but he was beginning to see that being human was not a weakness. It was a potential the galaxy had yet to understand. The challenges of the throne were only beginning. Rival factions, political intrigue, and external threats awaited. But Aaron knew that as long as he relied on human ingenuity, courage, and heart, he could face anything. The court might question him, the galaxy might doubt him, but he had something that no one could take away. The power of being human in a universe that often overlooked the smallest, simplest species, and for Aaron, that was just the beginning of an extraordinary journey. The Lyseran Empire had known peace for centuries, maintained through strength, diplomacy, and the Queen's unmatched leadership. But the galaxy was never truly quiet. From the shadows, a coalition of rival planets jealous of Lysera's power began to plot an invasion. They called themselves the Obsidian Alliance, a group determined to take what they believed was rightfully theirs. Aaron learned of the threat during a late-night council briefing. The room was tense. Generals and advisors spoke rapidly, outlining the overwhelming strength of the enemy fleets. Thousands of warships, each capable of devastating entire planets, were gathering at the borders. Many advisors argued for immediate retaliation, a show of force to scare the coalition into backing down. But Queen Lysera's eyes were on Aaron. What do you suggest? She asked, her calm voice masking the weight of the galaxy's greatest threat. Aaron took a deep breath. He could feel the pressure in the room, the years of experience of the alien generals, the intelligence of the advisors, and the sheer expectation from the Queen herself. Humans were considered fragile, inexperienced, and small, but Aaron had learned that sometimes being underestimated was the greatest advantage. I suggest we do something different, he began. We cannot match their numbers or raw power, but we can be unpredictable. We can combine our resources in ways they will not expect, and we can make them believe we are stronger than we appear. A Krelvian commander snorted. And what would a human know about strategy against fleets that outnumber us 10-1? Aaron met his gaze steadily. Humans often succeed not by fighting harder, but by thinking differently. If we act in a way they cannot predict, we can turn their strength into weakness. Let me outline a plan. He turned to the holographic map of the galaxy, using markers for fleets, planets, and supply routes. He showed how a series of small, precise maneuvers could confuse the Obsidian Alliance. Decoy fleets would lead the enemy to believe Lysera's forces were scattered and weak. Meanwhile, hidden strike teams could disable key supply lines and communication hubs. The enemy would hesitate, unsure of Lysera's true strength. The council was skeptical. It's risky, one elder advisor said. If they detect the deception, we could lose everything. Every plan carries risk, Aaron replied. But this plan uses intelligence, timing, and creativity, the kind of advantage humans have mastered. We can achieve what brute force alone cannot. The Queen's violet eyes softened in approval. Very well, Aaron, we will follow your plan. The preparations began immediately. Aaron coordinated with fleet commanders, engineers, and spies. He worked tirelessly, often late into the night, studying enemy movements, predicting their next step, and adjusting plans accordingly. He discovered once again that humans had a unique skill, adaptability. When a plan faltered, he quickly found a new solution. The first stage of the operation involved deploying decoy fleets to the outer systems. Small, fast ships disguised as major battle groups moved into sight of enemy scanners. Sensors picked up the false formations, and the Obsidian Alliance began mobilizing in response. Meanwhile, Aaron had secretly organized strike teams to sabotage key supply lines. It was a tense operation. Every move had to be precise. Every calculation had to be accurate. One mistake could lead to disaster. But Aaron's human intuition and creativity proved invaluable. He noticed patterns in the enemy's reactions that the most experienced advisors had missed. Using subtle adjustments, he kept the coalition off balance, forcing them to waste resources and question their own intelligence. On the third day, the enemy attempted a direct attack on a critical Lysaran system. Aaron had anticipated this and had already positioned strike teams and reinforcements. The battle was swift and decisive. The Coalition's flagship was disabled, several supply convoys captured, and the Obsidian Alliance was forced to retreat. The court was stunned. A human, previously considered weak and unimportant, had devised a plan that outsmarted fleets far larger and stronger than Lysara's own. Aliens who had once mocked him now looked at him with respect, if not awe. Queen Lysara approached him privately after the victory. "You did not just help win a battle, Aaron, you changed perceptions. Humans are no longer underestimated. You have shown that courage, creativity, and intelligence are more powerful than sheer strength." Aaron felt a mixture of pride and relief. He had succeeded not by fighting harder or using more power, but by thinking differently, by adapting and by trusting human ingenuity. He realized that this was the essence of being human in a galaxy that valued strength above all else, the ability to turn limitations into advantage. But the victory came with consequences. The Obsidian Alliance was humiliated and enraged. They began plotting a larger, more coordinated attack, determined to crush the Lysaran Empire and prove that a human's plan was no match for raw force. Aaron knew that the next challenge would be even greater, yet he felt ready. He had survived court politics, sabotage, and skepticism. He had proven that humans could succeed where even centuries of experience might fail. And now, facing a formidable external threat, he had the Queen's trust and the loyalty of allies who had once doubted him. The next few weeks were filled with preparation. Aaron worked alongside the fleet commanders, using simulations and real-time data to refine strategies. He studied enemy tactics, noting that the Coalition relied on predictable aggression. Humans, however, thrived in unpredictability. Aaron suggested maneuvers that seemed counterintuitive to alien advisors, but ultimately created opportunities for decisive victories. When the Obsidian Alliance launched their massive assault, the Lysaran Empire was ready. The battle unfolded across multiple star systems. Aaron's decoy fleets drew enemy forces into traps. Strike teams disabled critical infrastructure, and at the key moment, the Lysaran fleet, hidden until the perfect time, struck with precision, overwhelming the enemy in ways they could not have anticipated. The victory was complete. The Obsidian Alliance was forced into a humiliating retreat, their plans shattered. Aliens across the council whispered in astonishment. A human had masterminded a strategy that saved the Empire. Queen Lysara stood on the observation deck, watching the retreating enemy. She turned to Aaron, a rare smile on her face. "You have done something remarkable, Aaron. Not just for me, not just for the Empire, but for all humans. You have shown that our species can stand among the greatest in the galaxy." Aaron felt a deep sense of fulfillment. He had begun as an unassuming diplomat, underestimated by everyone. Now he was a strategist, a trusted advisor, and a symbol of human potential. The Queen's recognition was more than honor. It was validation that humans could be extraordinary, not through brute strength, but through ingenuity, courage, and determination. The victory also changed the court. Skeptics who had mocked him now sought his counsel. Allies who had been cautious now trusted him with critical missions. Humans were no longer seen as weak. They were a species capable of surprising greatness. Yet Aaron understood that the galaxy remained full of dangers. The Obsidian Alliance would recover. Other threats lurked in uncharted space, and political intrigue within the Empire never truly ended. But for the first time, he felt confident. Humans could face challenges no one expected. Humans could think, adapt, and inspire in ways the galaxy had yet to fully understand. As he stood with Queen Lysara on the balcony of the palace, watching the stars glitter in silence, Aaron realized that this was only the beginning. The galaxy was vast, full of danger and opportunity. But he, a human, had already proven that courage, creativity, and heart could triumph over power, experience, and expectation. And in that moment, Aaron knew that humans were not just part of the galaxy, they could shape it. The galaxy had changed in subtle ways since Aaron's rise to prominence. Once humans had been dismissed as fragile, ordinary, and unremarkable. Now they were seen as capable, clever, and courageous. And at the center of this shift was Aaron, the unassuming human who had earned the trust of Queen Lysara, the most powerful ruler in the galaxy. The aftermath of the victory over the Obsidian Alliance left the Lysaran Empire stronger than ever. The Queen's fleets were reorganized and new alliances were formed with planets that had previously doubted her leadership. But not all disputes were resolved through military might. Political tensions within the court remained, and some factions still harbored doubts about Aaron's role. Aaron understood that respect was not given, it was earned. He also knew that, as the Queen's husband, every decision he made was scrutinized. One wrong move could undermine everything he had accomplished. But he had learned to rely on human strengths: observation, adaptability, creativity, and courage. The first major test of this new phase came when a neighboring system, Talion, challenged the terms of a trade agreement. Its leaders demanded resources that Lysara could not spare. Previous advisors would have reacted with threats or intimidation, but Aaron saw another path. Negotiation is more powerful than force, he told the Queen. If we find a solution that gives them honor without harming the Empire, they will respect us more than any show of strength could achieve. Queen Lysara studied him. You speak with wisdom, Aaron. Proceed. Aaron proposed a plan that involved exchanging technology, granting minor concessions, and creating a shared research initiative. It was a compromise, but one that benefited both sides. When he presented it to Talion's leaders, they were skeptical at first, expecting trickery. But Aaron's clear reasoning, honesty, and foresight won them over. The agreement was signed, and what could have been a source of conflict became a foundation for stronger alliance. The court began to take notice. Whispers spread through the chambers. The human advisor was not only competent but exceptional. Skeptics who had doubted him before now sought his counsel. Aaron's reputation grew, not because he wielded power like the others, but because he solved problems in ways others could not. Yet respect did not mean absence of danger. A rival faction, unwilling to accept a human at the Queen's side, plotted to discredit him. They spread rumors of mistakes and deception, hoping to create mistrust. Aaron remained vigilant, using observation and careful investigation to uncover the source of the schemes. He confronted the conspirators calmly, presenting clear evidence of their intentions. The Queen, impressed by his integrity and diligence, removed them from positions of influence. Through these challenges, Aaron grew confident. He understood that leadership was not about physical strength or intimidation. It was about insight, courage, and the ability to inspire others. Humans, often underestimated, possessed these qualities in abundance, and now he was beginning to prove it not just to Lysara but to the galaxy itself. One evening, as the twin moons of Lysara's homeworld rose over the horizon, Aaron and the Queen walked together in the floating gardens. The gardens were alive with light and color, with waterfalls suspended in midair and plants that shimmered as though breathing. You have changed the court, Aaron, Lysara said, her voice gentle. You have shown that courage and wisdom are not limited to species or strength. You have earned the respect of those who doubted you. Tell me, do you feel the weight of it? Aaron looked out at the stars. I do, he admitted. But I also feel purpose. I've realized that being human is not a weakness. It can be a strength. Our creativity, courage, and empathy, they allow us to face challenges others cannot. Lysara smiled. And now you are a part of this empire not by title alone but by merit. That is more powerful than any fleet weapon or ancient law. Their conversation was interrupted by a communication from the fleet command. The Obsidian Alliance had been regrouping, sending scouts to probe Lysara's borders. Aaron quickly analyzed the data and proposed a strategy to monitor and intercept their movements without provoking a large-scale conflict. His plan worked, preventing any surprise attacks and further cementing the Lysaran Empire's stability. For Aaron, each victory was more than a personal success. It was proof that humans could stand tall in a galaxy that often underestimated them. He realized that intelligence, creativity, and courage were tools just as powerful as strength or speed, and by demonstrating these qualities, he had changed perceptions forever. The next major event was a ceremonial gathering of all allied planets, a celebration of peace, progress, and cooperation. Delegates from hundreds of worlds attended, each curious to meet the human who had helped secure the Empire's stability. Aaron stood beside the Queen as the ceremony began. The hall, enormous and radiant, was filled with beings of countless shapes and colors. Many whispered, some stared in disbelief, but all watched him. For the first time, Orion understood the weight of representation. He was no longer just a diplomat or advisor. He was a symbol of humanity. When he addressed the assembly, he spoke simply, honestly, and with confidence. Humans are small in this galaxy, but we are not powerless. Our strength comes from courage, creativity, and the willingness to act when others hesitate. Let this be a lesson. No matter how ordinary one may seem, every being has the power to change the world. The assembly erupted in applause. Some delegates were still skeptical, but many had begun to recognize the truth in his words. Humans were no longer dismissed, they were respected. Later, the Queen formally acknowledged Aaron's role. In front of the court and all allied representatives, she declared that he was not only her husband but a trusted advisor, strategist, and ambassador of humanity. The announcement was met with a mixture of awe, admiration, and respect. Aaron had earned his place not through birthright, power, or intimidation, but through merit, courage, and human ingenuity. As celebrations continued, Aaron found a quiet moment to reflect. He thought of Earth, the small planet that had seemed insignificant in the vast galaxy. He thought of the doubts he had carried, the fear he had felt when first declared the Queen's husband, and the skepticism of those who believed humans were weak. And he realized something profound. Humans had not only survived, they had thrived. Queen Lysara approached him quietly. "You have done more than I ever imagined," she said. "Not only have you proven yourself, but you have elevated your species. You have shown that courage and ingenuity can surpass expectations. The galaxy has changed because of you, Orion." Aaron smiled, feeling a mixture of pride and humility. "I just did what humans do best," he said. "We try, we adapt, and we keep going even when others doubt us. But thank you for trusting me." She took his hand, a rare gesture of intimacy in a world of protocol and power. "I always knew you could do it," she said. "Now together we can face whatever challenges the galaxy brings." And so, Aaron stood at the side of the most powerful queen in the galaxy, not as a subordinate or a pawn, but as a partner, a human whose courage, intelligence, and ingenuity had earned him respect across countless worlds. He had proven that humans could thrive, even in the most extraordinary circumstances, and that being underestimated was not a weakness. It could be the galaxy's greatest advantage. As they looked out over the glittering stars, Aaron felt a sense of purpose unlike anything he had ever known. The future was uncertain, the galaxy vast and full of challenges, but he also knew this: humans could rise to any occasion. Humans could inspire, lead, and change the course of history. And as the Queen stood beside him, he understood that together, they could not only defend the Empire but shape the galaxy for generations to come. Aaron's journey from an unassuming human diplomat to the respected husband of the most powerful queen in the galaxy was complete. He had faced doubt, danger, and immense challenges, and through courage, intelligence, and human ingenuity, he had triumphed. Humanity was no longer overlooked. It had earned its place among the stars, and for the first time Orion truly felt that being human was extraordinary.